Okay, so looking at TS part 2, by teachers uphold public trust in the profession and maintain high standards of ethics and behaviour within and outside of school. So just looking at the start point, just looking at the teaching standards, going straight into part 2. I really highlighted here that about showing tolerance and respect and civil rights for others, and not undermining fundamental British values, including democracy, rule, liberty, and tolerance of others. So just highlighting that whole section there was how we'll look to start this teaching standard. Just to, it'll make more sense as we progress through. So Elton, Shellcraft, Landa, and Ravel et al. 27 suggest that there is lack of training for pre-service and in-service teachers regarding the concept of fundamental British values and its implementation into schools. With this in mind, it's important to recognise the importance of training to ensure teachers develop a suitable understanding in promoting fundamental British values. Just taking this into account, we had to attend a prevent training at our school, and on a Wednesday evening, and after that Wednesday I asked Mr. Flower actually got the PowerPoint which we actually used during that prevent training, and he forwarded that on to me, which can be seen here, just to use as evidence for how we look to highlight this standards, how and use this. So here was the PowerPoint which we used. So we sat through this presentation and discussed how it will implement into our schools. Here's a map of our school, and talking about the fire escape plan and different ways we can look to first of all, we're talking about how we can adapt the prevent strategy and how we can identify students vulnerable and at risk. And one of them, the main focus, was promoting fundamental British values, which we said was a lack of in the research which I suggested, and it's key for our teaching stand part 2. So after this training, this obviously can be seen further if you'd like to look at it in my teaching stand evidence, but it's looking towards the end about the intruder alarm policy. So just looking at, afterwards we got an email from our PA to the head on behalf of Nathan, who ran the CPD training, and so he just said, "Thank you for attending." Obviously, I'd received the PowerPoint from him already. He said, just a reminder, we had a practice run, so we had a practice drill period for the day after it was actually after training. So just looking at the importance of this, the Department of Education document states that in order for schools and childcare providers to fulfil the prevent duty, it is essential that staff are able to identify children who are vulnerable to radicalisation and know what to do when they are identified. So allowing us to conduct this training allowed us to feel what the Department for Education said. The statutory guidance refers to the importance of prevent awareness to equip staff and to identify children at risk of being drawn into terrorism and to challenge extremist ideas. So this was talking about how what fundamental British values are, and promoting fundamental British values is essential to ensure that we tackle this potential risk, which we look to keep to a minimum. So looking here, so during our tutor time, we was asked to show various videos of and educate our students just to promote those fundamental British values and what to do in the example of worst case scenario of a prevent and we had to evacuate the building. So here was just one of the videos. This was before we looked to conduct the fire drill, so this was in the morning of when we'd done the evacuation drill. So just here's one of the videos which was advised by the Department for Education and the police and the government, if it wants to load.
No thanks. No, I'm fine. I just need to lie down.
Okay, so just going to fast forward it a bit.
I think so.
It can be seen here, and it was made suitable for our children in our tutor time, just to make them aware of the main key message Yeah, so the main key messages were to stay calm and, in worst case scenario, run, hide and tell, especially for us as PE teachers where we'd be outside. That's the key, which we were being told for our training when we're going to be outside, is to get away and call for help through the police if possible. So knowing that I had the fire drill happening that afternoon, I had planned a lesson with it in mind, and I knew that the fire drill happened. The students knew that the fire drill was about to occur, so I just ensured that I had this on my lesson planning, and I didn't know specifically at what point, but I just knew it throughout. So I intended to make a football-based lesson, and through it I just did games, looking at formation through the games and ensuring that kids were active, so they were calm as soon as they come. As soon as we got the call though from, and we ensure we made the children remained calm, and we run. So we got away to an evacuation point, which we would look to get to. And as soon as we were there, we ensured the process was carried out correctly, and we went back into our lesson. So we ensured that we weren't interrupted too much. It was just a practice sort of run, just to get the students aware if the worst case scenario this was to happen, then that would be the strategy and process we would look to take. So at the end of the lesson, I conducted a thumbs up or thumbs down and thumbs middle policy, which we used with the students to show how their achievements in line with the learning objective, because we mainly missed about 15-20 minutes, so we still got a fair bit of the lesson complete. However, I used that thumbs up, middle and down policy just to see if they felt they were able to meet the learning objective, and all of my students felt, as it was a games-based lesson, I intended that especially for what I knew was going to happen for the interruption in the lesson. They all felt they had put their thumbs up and achieved the learning objective, which we can see here all in green, because they all could put their thumbs up. So just making ourselves aware of the training and promoting those fundamental British values, as we discussed, can impact the students, and just preparing them for stuff that it is part of our role as a teacher. And just having that practice run didn't impact my students' learning, to just so I was prepared and we could do it. It still allowed us to achieve the learning objective of that lesson. However, that wasn't the main key focus. It was about their safety if it was to happen. However, I just managed to carry on with the lesson once we got back in. Just looking at some key references here, which will look to be adapted and improved on once they are submitted. But here's my evidence for how I've met Teaching Standard Part 2 to uphold the trust in the profession and maintain high standards of ethics, behaviour, and within and without outside of school.